It's time for the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is the voice of the working class, Rick Smith.
And welcome, brothers, sisters, working class heroes. This is the Rick Smith Show. Thanks so much for being here today on the big program. Lots to get to, lots to talk about. What an interesting day today was. Day one of the confirmation hearing of Ketanji Brown Jackson. I got to tell you, it was fun on a certain level. Fun watching Republicans trip over themselves. Fun watching Ted Cruz make an idiot out of himself, pimping his podcast. I'm going, seriously? Not the place, Ted. But hey, Ted's usually pretty good at being inappropriate. I'm surprised he made it out of Montana. We're going to have to live through 4 days of this. This was day one of what is slated to be 4 days of confirmation hearings. Everyone had their little chance to give their little spiel today. And look, what I think is good, the first polling that I've seen out of this, the American people are in favor of Miss Jackson as to sit on the bench. And I think that's great. I think this is a historic moment. I think this is fantastic. A New Monmouth poll out finds 55% of America believes she should be confirmed. 21% disagreed, 24% have no opinion. I think we're in a moment where, that's great. That means either, you're looking at what, 79% of the people are either for it or don't really care. That tells me that the country is moved past some race issues. Yeah, 21%. Yeah, you're always going to have that. I think this is it's a good moment. I think it's in a moment that we should celebrate. Now they're going to be, you're always going to have the Marsha Blackburns. She's always going to be there. Now Dick Durbin, who is the Senate Judiciary Chairman, he's the person with the gavel, going to be in control, if you want to call it that, of the big shindig. He said this is one of the most important assignments that he has ever had in his time in the Senate to usher through this confirmation process. And look, I got to think he doesn't want this to be a total train wreck, of which Marsha Blackburn said, "Here, hold my beer. Let's see if I can do that." She... you got to give her credit. She's going to stick to it. Going to do Tennessee some pride. She went out and her little spiel asked the question. Now remember, everyone on the Senate Judiciary Committee took turns making an opening statement. A lot of people, said nice things. Those were the Democrats. Some people, said that they were going to go after her on her sentencing, especially about her decisions on that child pornography stuff, because thought she was too lenient. And I'm sure we're going to hear about it. We're sure going to hear about her, her defending, prisoners at Guantanamo Bay, things like that. But it was Blackburn who got most of the headlines. She said, quote, "You once wrote that every judge has," and I quote, she said, "personal hidden agendas," end quote, "that influence how they decide cases. So I can only wonder what's your hidden agenda." And then she goes on to ask a series of, rhetorical, kind of questions that, Miss Jackson wasn't able to answer. She said, is it to let violent criminals, cop killers, and child predators back onto the streets? Is it to restrict parents' parental rights and expand government reach into our schools and our private family decisions? Is it to support the radical left's attempt to pack the Supreme Court? You have praised the 1619 Project, which argues the U.S. is a fundamental racist country. And you have made it clear that you believe judges must consider critical race theory. There it is. That theory about race that's critical. But you must consider critical race theory when deciding how to sentence criminal defendants. Is this your personal hidden agenda to incorporate critical race theory into our legal system? These are answers that the American people need to know. Then she finished up by saying, "Oh, you've had an impressive career." Oh my gosh. Now, here's the thing. What we're going to see, we're about to witness, in my view, what is going to be tantamount to a public lynching. A virtual public lynching. I mean, they're not really, they're not going to. Thing is, this woman is smart. She is wicked smart and articulate. She graduated magna cum laude. She was editor of her law review. She's been through the confirmation process before, and she's going to get a chance to respond to this idiocy and have the opportunity, and I'm going to think in the most bless your heart kind of way, to put Marsha and the Klan back in their place. At least I hope so. Because while Chuck Grassley, who is the top Republican on the Judiciary Committee, says that, we won't try to turn this into a spectacle based on alleged process foul. We won't try. I think they're going to do it anyway. And while Lindsey Graham says it won't be a circus, you still have Josh Hawley and Ted Cruz. You still got Marsha Blackburn. You've still got lunatics. And you remember last week you had Josh Hawley coming out with a series of attack tweets because she's soft on pedophiles. Again, dog whistle to the Q-Kooks to get them all bunched up in the panties. And what's interesting is while Grassley and Graham claimed that, it's not going to be a circus. We're going to try. Conventional wisdom says, Republicans kind of have to tread lightly, don't want to look like they're opposed to Miss Jackson because, she's potentially the first black woman to sit on the Supreme Court. Kind of historic, kind of a big deal, kind of a moment that history will remember. So if you say something like, is your hidden agenda critical race theory? History may remember you for all the wrong reasons. You kind of might want to go, tread a little lightly. Part of me goes, black person, woman, racism, misogyny. They're not going to be able to resist. One, if it was just a black person, I think they could hold on. Just one, they could hold on. If it were just a woman, like they could hold on. They could do it. Yeah, they could do it. But now if it was a black woman who was of the LGBT community, heads would explode. It would be the end of the world. I think it's going to be too much to hold. We will see. Obviously, we will see if they can. But I'm really not thinking they're going to be able to. I think they're going to blow. Now the thing is Judge Brown Jackson is extraordinarily qualified. The American Bar Association has given her the highest rating that they have. She's extremely qualified to sit on the bench. Someone who I think will do a good job, and someone who I think, to be honest, someone who I don't think I'm going to always be thrilled with. And that's someone you want on the bench. Someone who I don't think you're going to agree with all of the time. You want someone who is going to follow the law, and look, it may not always go the way I want. I think she can do that. I think her record speaks of that. The soft on crime thing, I'm not getting. Now the Marsha Blackburn thing, what I want on the court is I want someone who's going to believe in decided law, which I believe she will Brown Jackson will do. I believe that. Unlike the last bunch who keep overturning laws. Now, Roe is on the chopping block. And look, Roe's done. With Ms. Brown Jackson on the court, it's not going to change the complexity of the court at all. There's nothing changing. What it's going to do is it's going to make it a 6-3 court. It's going to be what it's going to be. What it's going to do is it's going to open up a lot more interesting questions over the next couple of days. For instance, Marsha Blackburn, again, on this day, brought up the idea of Griswold versus Connecticut. Interestingly enough, while Roe is going to go down, it really is all about Griswold. And when you start and think about all of the things that generations have taken kind of for granted of decisions of the past that were have been part of our law, you now have, hey, a conservative Supreme Court going to go back and relitigate past grievances and overturn, the 20th century. And they're going to look at someone like this nominee as the old entrenched interest, one of those people, as they're trying to recreate the 19th century. And I'm interested in how much they're going to let out of that. How much of the real them will come forward. I don't think Marsha Blackburn is smart enough to not let it out. Someone like Josh Hawley, I think he can. I think he's somewhat smart. I think he can shield it. I think Blackburn, no, I think she's going to wear it right off. I think she wears her zealotry right on her sleeve. But going to be fun. Going to be fun watching the responses to the idiocy. Just my thoughts. Love to hear yours. You can email me, rick@thericksmithshow.com. What will you be watching out for? I want to hear that. Also, if you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast. Always available there at thericksmithshow.com or wherever you get your podcasts, from iTunes to iHeart, Podbean to Stitcher, and everywhere in between. Gonna take a quick break. Right back after this. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show. We're working people. Come to talk.
From the steel mills of Pennsylvania to the auto factories of Michigan to the modern makers movement, manufacturing makes our nation great. I'm Scott Paul, president of the Alliance for American Manufacturing. We bring business and labor together to advocate for policies that everyone can agree on. Together, we can strengthen manufacturing and create good-paying American jobs. Help us keep it made in America.
It takes a lot to raise a family. A good job, a good salary, and some patience. A lot of people my age are drowning in college debt, but I chose a different path. I'm a member of the IBEW, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers. I work hard for my job, and I love what I do. I had a lot of choices for my future, but I made the best choice for my family. IBEW, the right choice.
The best way to strengthen America's economy? How about investing in America's fastest growing industry, clean energy? We're talking jobs, millions of them, the type that pay well and can't be outsourced. Because the thing about clean energy, it's all right here, American made. It means lower utility costs for families, and it's how we take on climate change. An investment in clean energy is a big win. Congress, let's get it done.
Welcome back to The Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So, I understand there's a big proposal to shake up the Veterans Affairs Medical Center system. Evidently, there are like 35 of these in 21 states that are either going to be closed completely reconstructed, redone, removed, redone. A lot going on. I mean, you've got the end of our conflicts going on. You've got all these people that are going to have to be taken care of. There is a $2 trillion infrastructure. They're calling it an overhaul. We'll see what's being overhauled. I'm here to share some thoughts on this, whether this is a good idea, a bad idea, how it's going to help, or maybe not, and what we should do about it. I've asked Jacqueline Simon to come talk with us. Jacqueline is a public policy director over at the AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. Jacqueline, thanks for taking time for us.
Well, thank you for inviting me.
So let's walk through this. You've got this $2 trillion, what they're calling an overhaul. They're saying that they're going to be 35 of these veteran affairs medical centers in 21 different states that are going to be closed or completely reconstructed. This is a good thing? This is a bad thing? Where are you guys at?
Well, this is a creature of a bill that was passed in 2018, a big privatization bill for VA. It was called the Mission Act. And it was designed, the law itself was designed to facilitate privatization. And since that law passed, 25%, a little more than 25% of all VA spending goes to private care now. And inside that bill was a little ticking time bomb to complete the job of dismantling and really destroying the VA healthcare system. And that was this thing they call the AIR Commission. And what its advocates like to say about it is that it is a commission that will study and recommend changes to the VA healthcare system that would reallocate resources away from, say, the Rust Belt, where there are fewer and fewer veterans, and toward the Southeast and the West, where there are more veterans, and they would refurbish some facilities, build some new facilities, and close some dilapidated old facilities. That's what they're trying to sell. The truth of the matter is that this commission is a closure commission. The only legal authority it has, is to close hospitals and clinics. It has no authority whatsoever to refurbish, repurpose, or build anything new. If anything new were to be built, it would only happen as a result of completely separate legislation. This thing is a closure commission. Everything you hear about it, most everything you hear about it, is going to be a lie. Our current estimates are that it would destroy about 42,000 union jobs, good union jobs in healthcare. Wow. If it were allowed to go forward.
And let me stop you here, because when I first read about this, I'm going, okay, anytime I hear something this big, my first reaction is, hold on, stop. This doesn't sound like a great idea. Let's get the details. And then, when I found out it came from, as you pointed out, the 2018 Mission Act, and this idea of moving towards a privatized system, again, everything we seem to privatize has to come with a profitization model, which then means, worse outcomes at a higher cost. Again, hairs on my neck start standing up, because then we're then not doing the things we need to do, and it's costing us more money to not get what we need done. And then I find, it's more privatization, which means we're going to start closing down the facilities that we've had built and, handing them off to profiteering interests using our money. And that's when you just kind of lose me. So is there a way to stop this?
Well, I just want to say that you've done a perfect job of describing what's going on. That's exactly what's going on. And when you talk about this big price tag in the trillions of dollars, those trillions of dollars, that's not for building new facilities. That's for paying profiteers, as you just described. And every objective study out there that looks at health outcomes for veterans, that compares how they do when they receive their health care in-house at veterans facilities, veteran medical centers and clinics, or in the private sector shows that they have better outcomes at the VA. And the patient population for the VA system is really very different from the population at large. Veterans, for a variety of reasons, mostly related to their military service, present with very complex and sometimes unique problems. Usually, often a multiplicity of problems that range from mental health to physical health, injuries and illnesses that result from injuries. And they're not the same kind of patients that walk in the door of your basic primary care or even specialty care practice in the private sector. It's unique to the VA.
Right.
The VA has unique expertise in treating these issues. And so it's not a matter of just willy-nilly saying, okay, we're going to close your medical center, go find care elsewhere, we'll pay your bills. In addition to the fact that, of course, we'll be gouged, we as taxpayers, and in addition to the fact that we all know that there are vast healthcare deserts out there in rural areas and many places around this country where it'll be very hard for veterans to find the care they need, primary care or specialty care. They may wait forever to get it. Then there's the problem of having their bills paid by the VA. The VA has offered the private sector a blank check, but in the interim between when the veteran gets the bill and when the veteran gets compensated for that bill, there's a nice long chunk of time during which the veteran can have their credit ruined, they're liable until they get reimbursed by the VA. So there's so many problems with this plan, and so many lies. There's no other word for it, being told by its advocates. We were very, very, I'll say disappointed. That's a nice way of saying disappointed that Biden's Secretary of Department of Veterans Affairs has become such a, ridiculously enthusiastic booster of this closure plan. Sometimes depending on which audience he's talking to, when he's talking to the privateers, he talks about this is a done deal. It's going to be wonderful. You're going to make $1 million and this is going to be great. We're going to build new facilities. We're going to, give you new patients. When he's talking to other audiences, he says, don't worry. This isn't going to happen for years and years. We'll find other jobs for you. We'll make new jobs. I wish I didn't have to do this, but I have to follow the law. So, he's really talking out of two sides of his mouth. But, it's Trump holdovers who put this plan together, and the Biden administration should never have put it forward.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted to get to here in a second. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show here with Jacqueline Simon. She's the Public Policy Director with AFGE, the American Federation of Government Employees. You can check out their website, afge.org. We'll get links out on social media how you can do that. Now, as you point out, this is a Trump-era policy. And I remember, back in that era being against it then because, we know that privatization schemes have never worked out as they've been sold. You can go to any privatization scheme that they've sold us, from parking garages to turnpikes, the water authorities to anything. None of those things have worked out. What makes us think that taking care of veterans is going to be any different than those schemes? But the thing that gets me is, you look at this and I would a little more hopeful in the Biden administration. But how it's being sold is that we're building all of these new hospitals, we're building all of these new clinics, something like 14 new major VA hospitals and 140 multi-specialty community-based outpatient clinics. And my question is I'm looking at these, and are these VA hospitals owned by the VA, or are these going to be privatized hospitals and clinics that we're then handing off to be run by who knows who yet? Kind of like we're doing with the charter hospitals, like we've done to charter schools.
The answer to your question is neither. They're hospitals that don't exist. They're hospitals that only exist to divert attention from the reality of this plan, which is closures. It's quite likely that not a single new medical center would ever get built.
So then let me ask you this. So if if we're closing all this stuff, Because this is the fear. Because what I understand already, you're like 50,000 workers down already in the VA. So we're already not taking care of the people that we have. You've already created this crisis in the system. If you close all these hospitals, where are all these veterans going to go? Where are all these people going to go? How are we going to take care of all these people if these hospitals close?
Well, that's a good question. The proposal is based on this extremely flawed so-called market analysis that the Trumpers working for VA put together. And notably, the data they use to measure private sector capacity, excess capacity in the private sector, i.e., could they absorb the veteran patient population, and in-house VA capacity was all pre-pandemic data, all of it. It's mostly from 2016 through 2019. Not a single bit of the data that they use to make these recommendations acknowledges the existence of the pandemic. So if you're going to buy what they're selling, you have to completely forget all those images you saw on TV of New York City at the height of the pandemic, where there were tents erected in parking lots to try to accommodate the vast overflow of patients. Patients on gurneys in hallways, doctors and nurses working 24-hour shifts over and over and over again, completely exhausted, completely overworked. We have to forget the fact that there's a nationwide shortage of nurses and doctors in the private sector, as well as the VA. We have to forget all of those images. We have to forget that, and we have to pretend that it's 2019 or 2018. We've never heard of COVID-19, and there's plenty of excess capacity in the private sector. No such thing as a surge. No reason for the VA to ever plan for its so-called fourth mission, which is to be available to the general public in cases of national emergency, which is anything from a pandemic to, natural disasters, floods, fires, that kind of thing. And the VA, I should just want to be sure to mention, performed extremely well in the pandemic, not only took care of the veteran population and saved many, many lives, but also was there for the general population for spillover from this so-called excess capacity private sector.
Yeah, for all the veterans out there, think about this for a second. This was based on excess capacity. So your place in the new system is based on excess capacity as opposed to being the primary focus of a system. That I got to tell you, if I was one of those veterans who had one of these, because as a friend explained, the VA, the importance of the VA is that they know veterans, they know the ailments that they have, they know the particular kinds of ailments, and they have the capacity and the brains, if you will, the institutional knowledge, if you will, to know where things are. And now we're going to deal with this on again, how did you say it? Excess capacity level. Interesting.
Yeah, I think one of the most frustrating things, if you're obviously somebody who's attuned to language, in the parlance that the VA uses for privatization, they call it community care. And the irony, of course, is that the VA system is a very important community for veterans. As you pointed out, not only do they get do they have providers with unique expertise in the problems that veterans experience, but it's a place where you don't have to explain why you are having whatever kind of condition that you have. They already know. When you come into a VA, not only are you getting your health care, but there are people right there who will make all the services of the VA available to you. And you don't have to get on a bus or get in your car and drive across town and go from this place to that place to the next place for different kinds of care. It's all under one roof. It's all integrated. And one of the most devious things about this plan is that they are shutting down inpatient VA beds for mental health, for substance abuse, for elder care. The current footprint has these kinds of inpatient beds all very close together geographically, within walking distance one of another. Now they'll be dispersed widely, sometimes hundreds of miles away from one another. Yeah. It's a terrible plan.
So last question I've got: how do you stop it?
Oh well, we're going to stop it. We got to go. It's kind of like a BRAC. I don't know how familiar you were with those.
Yeah, the Base Closing Commission.
Those closures, right, in the Department of Defense. So it's a really very fast kind of project designed to make it difficult to stop. They got 1 year, and they're going to go around and hold these hearings in all the locations where closures are recommended. I would urge all your listeners, come to these public hearings, let the commissioners know that you don't want to see your VA closed. Let your lawmakers know that you don't want to see your VA closed, because after the commission gives the recommendations to the president can throw it in the trash can, or he can send it to Congress for an up or down vote. And they have to have a joint resolution of the Congress, either to accept the entire thing or reject the entire thing. No amendments, only 2 hours of debate. If Congress disapproves it, Secretary McDonough is running around telling everybody, if Congress disapproves it, that I almost said Trump, Biden will veto the disapproval. We shall see. Going into this midterm election, having Trump's privatization plan for the VA hanging over Democrats when this is a Republican plan. The bill did have bipartisan support when it passed. I'll admit that. But the idea of turning this into Biden and the Democrats dismantle the VA plan, I think is really bad politics. And so far, many Democratic lawmakers and Republican lawmakers have come out strongly against this. So it's not a done deal, but it's going to take a lot of work. Veterans need to make sure their voices are heard, that they want to save their VA. Certainly, our union is going to be working very, very hard, round the clock, trying to save our VA, and try to make sure lawmakers and all the way up to the president understand that this is a very, very bad idea.
It's not good. And I guess 17 medical centers in 12 states are going to be completely closed. New York, there are 3 of them: Castle Point, Manhattan, Brooklyn. Pennsylvania's got 2, Philly and Coatesville. Virginia's got 2, Hampton and Salem. South Dakota's got 2, Fort Meade and Hot Springs. Then you go to the ones that are, Massachusetts, Central Western Mass, Dublin, Georgia, Chillicothe, Ohio, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Battle Creek, Michigan, Alexandria, Louisiana, Muskogee, Oklahoma, and Palo Alto, California. All those are set to be, all 17 set to be closed. Where do those folks go? But I'm sure this is something that will continue, Jacqueline, and I hope you'll come back and share some more thoughts and help us work through this and keep us up to date on what's going on.
I'd be happy to. Thank you very much for inviting me.
Appreciate the time. Thank you so much, Jacqueline Simon, Public Policy Director there at AFGE. AFGE.org, the website, if you want to check out more on what they do. Going to take a quick break right back after this. Love to hear your thoughts. 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. If you're just joining us, make sure you grab the podcast. Never miss a second. Quick break right back after this.
We've been farming the same farm for 3 generations, and it's just always been where I've wanted to be. Any farmer you talk to in Montana will tell you that the climate is definitely changing. The weather is way more extreme. We went from the wettest year we've ever had to this year with the worst drought we've had since the 80s. We've done everything we can to keep water going, but it got close to running out. Farmers can't afford the cost of climate change. Congress has to get this done.
It doesn't happen like we think it does. No one rolls the tanks. No armies meet in pitched battle. It happens quietly, little by little. And because so many think it can't happen, it does happen. Little by little, the rules change. It doesn't seem shocking or sudden. And that's the point. Fewer places to vote, longer lines. Don't worry, they say. We're just improving the system. They hope we won't notice the rules are changing because they lost the last election. They hope we just won't care enough to stop them. They believe they can take America away from us, and we won't even notice. We know who they are. We know what they want. The question is, who are we? Do we let them get away with it, or do we fight? Democracy is on the ballot. Vote while your vote still counts. The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
Welcome back to the Rick Smith Show. Now, here is Rick Smith.
So every time I turn on the TV, I got to tell you, folks, just horrible. And it's getting worse every day what's going on in Ukraine. And the Pope weighed in, said it's a senseless massacre where every day slaughters and atrocities are being repeated. He said there's no justification for this. He says, I beg all the players in the international community to truly commit themselves to stopping this repugnant war. And I read that and I'm going, is the Pope calling for the international community to gang up on Putin? I mean, is this a call to arms by the Pope? Wow. I mean, look, if anyone's gonna pull things together, maybe that's where it goes. Anyway, here to share some thoughts on what's going on over in Ukraine and that region of the world. I've asked our good friend Greg Palast to come talk with us. Greg is one of my favorite, if not my favorite, investigative reporter. Also, best-selling New York Times author. Numerous books. You get those at gregpalast.com. Too many for me to rattle off, but my favorite, Best Democracy Money Can Buy. Greg Palast, thanks for taking time for us.
Glad to be with you again, Rick.
So, what do you think? Is this a call to everybody ganging up and putting Putin in his place? You think from the Pope?
Well, go Frankie, I hope, but we don't know. The question is, is the Pope calling? Is he calling for a jihad here? Is this a holy war? I don't know, but I'll tell you this. It's grim. And just so you know, I have a reporter. The Palace Investigative Fund has a reporter, Nick Parapolitis, in Kharkiv, which is, the main city after Mariupol that's under bombardment. I haven't heard from Nick in 2 days. I'm hoping it's just because, Putin has his finger on the internet off button in these areas. But 400, I do know that he reported, and the Wall Street Journal confirmed that 400 apartment buildings have been blown apart. So it's pretty grim. He's in the basement of one building and getting out messages when he can.
It's just horrible. And you go, what sense does this make? I mean, on what level does this make any sense? And I've had a bunch of people go, well, he's doing this because he wants security, he wants a buffer zone. I mean, every justification, please. He doesn't want NATO expansion. This is all Joe Biden's fault because Joe Biden's weak. All these
NATO
excuses.
Expansion. Okay, let's get to NATO. First of all, let's put that mythological beast aside. Yeah, my waste expansion's a bad idea, but it doesn't threaten anyone. Neither did. Let's remember, Ukraine was not allowed into NATO, and there was no way that they were going to be allowed into NATO. NATO's charter actually says you can't join if you're in conflict with a bordering state. Well, excuse me, that's why let's remember, Ukraine applied for NATO membership 14 years ago, and suddenly last, 3 weeks ago, Putin wakes up and says, oh my God, Ukraine's applied for NATO membership. Yeah. It's a threat to Russia. So has NATO fired a bullet at Russia ever? I mean, it's, I agree that adding in Poland and other Eastern European nations was what I would call diplomatic malfeasance. But let's get rid of that as a casus belli. And let's remember something else. For a nation which is supposedly threatening Russia, the Ukraine gave Russia its warheads, actually gave up all of its nuclear weapons, and didn't just smash them. They literally handed them over to Russia under an agreement in which the United States, Mr. Biden, and Russia and Britain and France agreed to the security of Ukraine in return for giving up those missiles. I'll tell you this, after Kim Jong-un watches what Biden didn't do to protect Ukraine, and watch what happened to Gaddafi after he gave us his nukes, there is zero chance. In fact, I'd have to say, if I were an advisor in North Korea, I'd say, whatever you do, don't give up your damn nukes. Yeah. Never. That's over. That story's over with. And with Biden saying we have no obligation to Ukraine, well, what does that agreement that we signed mean, sir? Biden's done a very good job of saying we're not going to do this and we're not going to do that. Who plays poker that way? Whatever happens, even if I get 4 aces, I will not use them in this poker game.
No, but here in his defense, though, Greg.
Can I please play chess with you, Mr. Biden, and please tell me what your next moves that you promise not to castle, you promise not to use your bishop. Okay.
Yeah, but in defense,
military parlance, in military parlance, what Biden's move is called. He's called a schmuck. So,
see, I'm gonna defend Biden a little bit here because I'm not in favor
over the
of
top Biden. Okay,
a little bit here, because there are some things I think he's done well. I think he's communicated well. I think he's done a good job.
But who cares about what he communicates?
Okay.
Let's talk to the Pope, and the two of them could talk about world peace. Hold hands. Kumbaya.
Do you think
thanks, Joe.
So do you think we should have? Do you think we should have put gone in and enforced a no-fly zone? Do you think we should have done that?
Those are, you know what? There were lots of things between saying we're not going to do crap for you in Ukraine versus we're going to have no-fly zones, et cetera. First of all, a no-fly zone has never created a conflict with Russia. We've had them. We have a no-fly zone right now in Syria, whether you like it or not. It's called the disengagement, deconfliction zone. It is a no-fly zone over parts of Syria, and we've always had that. We had no-fly zones over Iraq, and we told Russia, don't get near it. Here's when our planes are flying. Don't get near it. We're moving people in. We're moving equipment in, and that's it. And Russia has never and will never touch it, period. Right now, we should be absolutely saying, since Biden's ruled out no-fly zone, you just say we are going to have, we're going to move, just move Patriot missiles right into Lviv and say, look, the big Western city, you don't get near it. That's all. Don't do it. We're moving in our equipment, and if you want to fight the Ukrainians, they're going to be equipped to the teeth. Now, I would say the only reason, we're all applauding that the tank column, that the vicious column heading south towards Kiev has been stalled for 3 weeks. The Russians have literally lost thousands of troops, not that Putin cares.
Yeah.
We could have done the only reason that tank column is stopped is because the British sent in Saab anti-tank missiles. They weigh 15 pounds. That's it. A 7-year-old can carry the damn thing and wipe out a Russian tank. And they sent in 4,700 of those. That's what stopped that tank column. The U.S. tried to prevent Britain from doing that, saying it was a violation of our NATO agreements. So Biden actually got in the way. If the only reason that tank column is stopped is because basically Boris Johnson told Biden to go stick it, and he provided weaponry. And now, after the fact, we're providing weapons. It's ridiculous. I would just talk to a major who is in charge of, who's one of the big U.S. military advisors on future warfare. And as he says, you can't just hand people Stinger missiles. You can't give them drones and expect them to, some school teachers decided to volunteer this week and give them equipment and expect them to be able to use it. He says, we should have been doing that before. Obama should have not allowed Syria to cross the red line, and we shouldn't have surrendered in Afghanistan. I'm sorry, these are hard truths for the left, but we've got to accept them. We have to decide: are we a pacifist movement or are we a progressive movement? You can't be both. You can't protect people if you're going to say we're an isolationist movement. It's none of our business, because the minute we say that, then they come after you. And, the left has got to make a decision here. I'm going to be tough on the left on this one because a lot of we're split on this. We have to recognize it. We have Code Pink out there blaming the United States. We provoked Putin The hell you did.
Yeah, no.
The one thing we do have to apologize to the Ukrainian people is the United States put Putin in office. And that's what one of the things, a history I've been writing about. Terrific. I don't want to take too much credit for this. A lot of this work was done by Ben Judah, who wrote a great biography of Putin called Fragile Empire. And, we literally jacked with the elections to get Yeltsin and his running mate, Vlad Putin, elected. That election was stolen in the late 90s. We engineered that because we were afraid that the front runner in that race, and he wasn't exactly a nice guy, was Gennady Zyuganov, who was the head of the kind of rebranded Communist Party of Russia. And we weren't going to let the Communist Party take back Russia. And so what they did is, and this is a very interesting story, Rick, they actually ran kind of a beauty contest to look for the Putin of the Pinochet of Russia. The oligarchs, Berezovsky, Khodorkovsky, and the others, these billionaires were afraid that if the Communist Party won the election and Yeltsin were thrown out, that they would have to give up their billions and billions and billions that they stole from the people. People were starving in Russia. The average life expectancy of a male, which was greater than in the United States because they had full health care, remember, they had socialized medicine in the old days. It dropped from a longer life expectancy in the USSR for men to 57 years. You know what that means?
Wow.
Demographically, it was a worse demographic collapse since World War II in Russia when they lost 20 million people. They lost millions of people during this vicious invasion of U.S. right-wing economists like Larry Summers, who were pushed by Bill Clinton to do a radical shock therapy makeover of the Russian economy. People starved. The billionaires stole the country blind. And so the only way that they could save it was to find a guy that they said was just like Pinochet. Now, for those who don't know, Pinochet, Augusto Pinochet was the general, vicious right-wing general who murdered and overthrew the communist elected president of Chile, Salvador Allende, and created a reign of terror in two ways. One, by mass murdering people. He loved to throw people out of helicopters. He killed at least 3,000 people, murdered them, disappeared them, threw them out of helicopters. And the Russian oligarchs literally looked for a Pinochet. And when I say they went so far as to actually fly to Chile and put Pinochet on Russian TV. And for this, while he was under arrest for murder, by the way, and he described the kind of man you needed. And Boris Berezovsky, who was one of the most vicious Russian oligarchs, told Yeltsin, "We found your Pinochet. He's a minor official, unemployed deputy mayor of Petersburg, and his name is Vlad Putin. You know him. He's the judo champ of Petersburg. He really did win the judo championship of Petersburg. And unlike Yeltsin, who was a raging drunk, he's a teetotaler. And so we ended up imposing on this nation the Pinochet, this monstrous dictator, the Pinochet of Russia. So he was picked as Putin's running mate to be prime minister. First, they wanted to see his chops, so they put him in charge. He was a KGB agent in the former, many years earlier. So they put him in charge of the FSB, the KGB's successor. So we have a lot to answer for because we had a lot to do with putting this SOB in office. A lot.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show with Greg Palast, investigative journalist, author, just tons of great books. Best Democracy Money Could Buy. You can find those things at gregpalast.com. If you got a thought, question, comment, something you want to ask Greg, 1-866-416-RICK, 1-866-416-7425. You can jump in and ask. Now, there's a lot of that going around. I mean, we have a lot to answer for in a lot of places because, the oligarchs there are, good friends with our oligarchs here. It's interesting that over there, the billionaires are called oligarchs, but here they're called job creators.
Let's talk about one job creator. How about Charles Koch? Charles Koch has issued a statement saying not only will he not shutter his businesses in Russia, but that he absolutely opposes any sanctions, any economic sanctions on Russia. Now, we know Koch as a right-wing, greedy billionaire. You know, I did the first documentary on Koch, the richest guy you've never heard of, the Koch brothers. And I was the one who got Koch on a tape recorder saying, I want my fair share, and that's all of it. So keep in mind, so what is Koch up to? Our oligarchs, as you correctly say. Well, think about it. While this conflict goes on, his business in Russia is small, but while this conflict goes on, Koch Industries, the second largest private company in America, is making billions and billions and billions on the run up in oil prices. Oil's over $100 a barrel. Koch oil, Koch gas, they're raking it in. They're a $120 billion company last year. Figure, I'm not kidding. I'm pretty good at these numbers. I'm an economist who's worked in energy a long time. And I would say that Koch Industries is easily making $30 billion on this war, and they don't want it to end.
Oh, of course not. No, and this is the part that is frightening to me. Look, I'm an anti-war person to a degree.
Me too.
I don't want to get into any conflict that we can't get out of. But I'm also one of those persons where I agree with the Powell doctrine. If you're going to get into one, you get into one, and you use overwhelming force and to make it as short as possible. So if we're going to get into this, you got to go all in. But we're not a country that's going to get all in on this. We're not even.
But I think we can. I think we really can do more. I mean, it's more subtle than usual, which is that we're not going to be in a ground conflict with Russia or anyone else. And the Ukrainians don't need it. What they do need is supplies. They need air cover. They need intelligence. We were not providing strong intelligence at first. It was only because the Ukrainians held them off, again, with British and Turkish weapons, Turkish drones, British anti-tank weapons. That's what held these guys off. I know the fighting spirit of the Ukrainians is unbelievable, but you can't.
The sticks and stones only go so far.
Literally, a friend of mine sent pictures of her relatives making hundreds of Molotov cocktails. So it's not 1956. Those won't work on the Russian tanks, but the Saab missiles will do a damn good job. And so there's plenty we can do. We should be moving in Patriot missile systems. We should be giving them all of the equipment that we had before. And the other thing is, can you tell that guy Austin, the guy who pretends to be our Secretary of Defense, to shut the F up? He keeps saying things like, well, we're thinking of ways of getting the Ukrainians these missile systems. Just do it, man. You don't tell Putin what you're. I mean, really, these guys have never played poker, have they? They just never played poker. Putin has.
Or maybe maybe they have, and they're playing a different game of poker. Just maybe.
Yeah, they're doing maybe they're doing like in this Paul Newman in The Sting, acting really stupid. just to throw them off. You think they're doing that? Do you think that Austin and Biden are acting really stupid, and Blinken, who's dumber than the two of them put together? Do you think that these guys are just putting it on for Putin, so he'll think that they don't know what they're doing?
I actually don't know, but it's an interesting statement. But here's my problem in all of this, and you hit on it a second ago, that in all of this, the profiteers are going to be walking away with money on all sides of this. I mean, there's all this misery and all this pain and all this suffering. As one rich guy in Russia has sent poor working class kids from Russia to go over and kill the poor and working class of Ukraine.
Yep.
The money from the world is pouring in to the military-industrial complex of the globe.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know what, Rick? Let's face it. You know what's going to happen here is that the military budgets now, which is already through the roof, is going to go to the moon.
Yep.
And it's going to go to like the Virginia class submarine, and it's going to go to the F-35 VTOL monstrosity. All these things that we're not going to use, that we're not going to give to the Ukrainians, that won't mean a damn thing. No, Putin isn't going to touch NATO. We don't need more weapons in NATO. They believe me. When I talk to guys in the military, they're telling me, whose army would you rather have? Whose weapons, Russia's or ours? It's not even a question. Russia's is a speck. They have an economy that's smaller than Italy's. They almost got their behinds kicked by the zero state of Georgia, which has virtually no military at all, and they almost blew that one. No, they're not a military threat. All he has is his nuclear weapons, and the problem. And Putin knows that if he uses them, who's going to build the statues to him? He thinks he's Catherine the Great. And
there you go, Greg. I appreciate the time, man. Great stuff. Thanks so much.
You're welcome.
Our good friend Greg Palast. Make sure you check out his website, gregpalast.com. We'll get links out on social media. I can check out all the great books that he's written, all of his documentaries, all of the incredible investigative journalism coming out of there. Quick break, right back. Stick around. You're listening to The Rick Smith Show.